Hi, everybody. I am so pleased to be able to introduce Megan, Dr. Lawson. She was one of our excellent students several years back, and she was kind of non-traditional because she started out, if I'm remembering right, in English, and then worked in a pharmacy as a registered pharmacy technician for a while and decided to become a pharmacist. And she was just one of the most determined, hardworking, focused students. And she was just a lot of fun to have in class and in lab. So it just brings me so much joy to see how successful you've become through your hard work and determination. And I think she's a wonderful pharmacist from everything that I've seen. And so I'm very pleased to introduce you, Megan, and thank you so much for being here to talk about your career.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. That's so kind. My parents and I were talking about this the other day, and my mom and dad both said that they had discussed a few days previous that they don't know where I would have ended up if it weren't for USCL. And a lot of that has to do with the teachers there and the experience that I had there. So thank you very much. You guys have already made a great choice by choosing to go to USCL. I very sincerely mean that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my life and my school and my career path and kind of how I ended up where I am today, and some of the obstacles that I encountered along the way, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of, I don't want to say inspiration because I'm not an inspiration, but if you're a non-traditional student or if you feel like you're struggling, just give you some hope that there's a light at the end of the school tunnel. So I am originally from Alabama. I graduated from the University of Alabama in 2007 with my bachelor's degree in English literature. I had started off pre-med, and when you go to a really big school, there are weed out classes. So the first pre-med course was a biology course for pre-med students. And there were 500 or 600 people in my class. You couldn't even see the back of the room, like from the front of the room. And they weeded us out. I think 20 people sat the final because everyone was failing. So going to a big school, you definitely don't get the one-on-one attention that I found that I needed in science. My kind of natural strong points are liberal arts, English, history, psychology was my minor in school. So going to a big school can be really challenging. But my senior year of college, I started working at a pharmacy. I had a friend who knew a pharmacist. He needed a technician. I didn't know what a pharmacist did. I was like, they give the drugs. That's all I knew. I had no idea that they had doctorates. I had no idea what went on behind the counter, but I really needed a job and the hours worked. And I was like, I mean, I can do this, sure. And from the first day, I just fell in love with it. I had never been a chemistry person. I always liked biology and did well in biology, but chemistry was just, I didn't have a good high school chemistry teacher. And I've talked about that over the years with friends I went to high school with that have gone into health care, and we all have agreed that we didn't have a good high school chemistry teacher. So chemistry was just tough for me. And so I started talking to the pharmacists about what classes did you have to take and what do you really learn? And I learned that a pharmacist is basically a chemist. And when I started learning about medicinal chemistry, we were a very slow pharmacy. So I would read all of the patient handouts that would come out. I read really fast and I was interested, and I was like, well, how does this work? What does this treat? What happens when you take it? So I started with patient handouts, and then I started reading, when you get a stock bottle of prescription medication, there's a package insert on top of it, and it walks you through the chemistry of the drug. And a lot of it was over my head, but I just thought it was so interesting. And then I really loved meeting the people that would come to the pharmacy. These pharmacists had been there probably 20 years, the same two pharmacists, and they knew everybody. They knew every patient. They knew every patient's grandma and their dog, and everyone who walked in. It was, hi, Mrs. Smith. Like, they knew everyone by name, and they would do things to help people. I thought, okay, well, I really want to do something to help people. I really like this environment. Maybe pharmacy is something I should think about. But I was graduating, and I had been in college for 4 years, and I would have had to take 2 more years of all the prereqs and then go to pharmacy school. And when you're 22, that seems terrible. It's like, I'm ready to be done. My family had moved to Charlotte when I was a freshman at Alabama. So I had gone from being 2 hours away from my parents to being 9, 10 hours away from my parents. So I really wanted to be closer to them. And so I started looking for jobs in Charlotte in technical writing, in journalism, in just about anything. 2007, the economy was really, really bad. There just were not a lot of jobs. I interviewed with several banks that were headquartered in Charlotte that have been absorbed by other banks and no longer exist, for writing jobs, public relations, marketing. And kind of inevitably, I would have several interviews, and then they would say, well, we can't afford to hire anyone, or they just eliminated the division, or somebody else is buying us. So I ended up going back to work in pharmacy. And I loved it. It's retail pharmacy is stressful and crazy. But in the long time it took me to get to where I am today, every time I wanted to quit, I would have an interaction with the patient that would make me stay in it. So I was working at Rite Aid in Rock Hill, and I had a patient who, I didn't know her. She didn't know me. She was taking Plavix, which at the time was brand name. That's how long I've been doing this. And she couldn't afford it. She would come and buy 2 pills at a time. And I thought, this is so wrong that someone who needs this medication to stay alive can't afford it. Why is there nothing I can do? And I ended up finding a coupon through the drug company that made her medication free. And I was so excited, and I just did it on my own. I didn't ask her, I didn't tell her, and then she came to pick up her medicine, and I was like, Mrs. Smith, you're never going to believe this. This is 30 days and it's totally free. And I will never forget this. She was on the other side of the counter, and she just looked at me. She was probably 90 years old, and she went like this. And I was like, oh no, she's mad. Because usually when somebody wants you out from behind the counter, it's bad news. And so I walked out from behind the counter, and she just kept looking at me. And then she grabbed me and she gave me the biggest hug, and she started crying. And she was like, thank you. You don't know what you've done for me. You've saved my life. And I was kind of in shock. And then I was like, I didn't even do anything that was that big of a deal. But to her, it was everything. And so I walked back around the counter, and the pharmacist who I worked with at the time is still one of my best friends. And I said, Jen, I got to go back to school. I got to be a pharmacist. This is what I want to do. So I started taking classes at Winthrop, and I was working full time and going to school, and it was just too much. It was so hard. I wasn't doing well in class. I don't think I was fully mentally prepared for the commitment that it takes to go back to school, especially when you're completely changing course. And so I ended up deciding, I don't need to do this. I just need to find something else. I can do another job and be happy. So I took a job at Harris Teeter as a customer service manager, and I moved to Charleston. And I loved Charleston, but I hated my job. I was like, if people are going to yell at me all day, I at least want to be back there with the drugs. And the store that I worked at ended up acquiring the patients of an independent pharmacy that closed. I was still a certified tech, and they asked me to help, and I got one toe over the door, and I was like, that's it. I'm going back to school again. So then I again was living in Charleston, working full time, trying to go to school, and I literally made myself sick. I was working 3 jobs and I still couldn't pay my bills. I was going to school at night. I was studying like overnight. It was just way too much. And my dad came down and we had one of those dad daughter talks. And he said, listen, you want to go to pharmacy school, move back home, go to USC Lancaster. He was like, I've heard it's a good school and you won't have to pay as many bills and that way you can focus on school. So that's what I did. I was 27 or 28 years old. And it kind of stunk to have to move back home at that age because my mom still gave me rules. But had I not done that, had I not gone to USCL and gotten some of the financial burden off of myself, I never would have finished my prereqs. There's just no way. I was making myself sick trying to do everything. So I started at USCL, did well in general chem, got to OChem, and I failed it. And I was devastated. I was like, God, like I finally have gotten here and I did really well in biology and I did really well in general chem and then I failed OChem, like I'm never going to make it. But I'm stubborn and I talked to Dr. Johnson and Dr. Burke and Miss Castillo was in my class and everybody really just encouraged me to keep going. And so I did, and I took organic again and I passed, and then I passed organic chem too. And I was like, I have climbed this mountain. And around the same time, so spring of OChem 2, I found out that I had gotten into pharmacy school and I had to pass to go to pharmacy school. So I was going crazy over that too. I was like, I have to pass this class or I'm not going to get out of here. So yeah, I still remember I was driving to USCL when I got an email from Belmont, which is where I went to pharmacy school, that I had gotten in. And I like ran to Dr. Johnson's office. I was like, you're never going to believe it. I got in. I was so excited and she was so excited and everyone there was so supportive. And I could not have done it without them. So thanks. So yeah, I went to Belmont. Belmont is a private school. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a non-denominational Christian-based university. And so as part of the pharmacy curriculum, we did a lot of volunteer work. And then I was involved in a lot of different organizations. I was on the state board for Tennessee Pharmacists Association and got really interested in professional advocacy and just kind of speaking up for our profession and helping us to find our place with all of the other healthcare professions. My grades were okay. They were just kind of average. And I had a professor my third year who I went to a meeting with about one of my organizations, and she was like the professor everyone was scared of. And it was because we just didn't know her. And we were sitting there talking and I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we're the exact same age, which made it even weirder because I was 30 before I started pharmacy school. And then she said, have you ever thought about doing a community residency? And I was like, no, I don't really know what that is. And that's what she had done at Virginia Commonwealth. And she said, I really believe that you could do it. I think you should look into it. And nobody to that point, like I was making it by, I was getting decent grades, like I was surviving. But I just figured I would go and work for Walgreens, which is where I worked when I was in school, and that would be it. And so again, someone stepped in and said, hey, I think you can do even more. When I thought that I was just average. So her encouragement was really helpful to me. I had some health issues when I was in pharmacy school, so I ended up taking a semester off. So it took me 5 years, but again, I'm stubborn and I don't quit. So my fourth year residency now is very highly sought after because the job market is pretty saturated for pharmacists. There was a big shortage of pharmacists 10 or 15 years ago. And so a lot of schools opened pharmacy programs, and now they're cranking out more graduates than the market can hold. I think that's going to change. But yeah, residency is something that's very highly sought after. And I had another professor who was my advisor, when I told her I was applying to residency, tell me that I wouldn't even get an interview with my grades. Well, I got 7 interviews. And there were people who were in the top of my class who didn't get a single one. And so don't let anyone else tell you that you can't do something. Like, I had a ton of experience. I had good recommendation letters. I had worked really hard, and making straight A's doesn't guarantee you anything. You just have to get through it. If anything, for me, it was, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I got through it. So I ended up matching with Virginia Commonwealth University's College of Pharmacy in Richmond, Virginia. I had been here one time for my interview. And then I moved here, and it's been a change. But as part of my residency program, I work for Publix. I'm the first resident that Publix has ever had. So that's been a learning curve, establishing that program and the things that I do for them. But Virginia Commonwealth has been turning out community residents for 20 years. They're one of the first community residency programs. And so what I do kind of on a daily and weekly basis is I'm at Publix. We are required to come up with an independent research project, which mine was around immunizations. So my little Publix that fills 100 scripts on a very busy day gave 3,000 flu shots this year. And we decided to access, so the states have immunization databases, and so we accessed people's records, and if there was other things that they were behind on, we recommended that they get those. And then I tracked how many we gave. I thought I was going to do that in like 5 or 6 stores, but my boss that's over my boss is out of Charlotte, and she had me do it in 40 stores. So I did completely original research and data collection. I had thousands of data points. It was crazy. But I have now presented that at a national conference. I'm presenting it at a residency conference in a couple weeks. And then we take our research projects and turn them into manuscripts and try to get them published. One of my other responsibilities was a business plan. So I wrote a business plan from the beginning. What do I think my opportunities are? What do I need to make this happen? And I based mine around pharmacists being able to prescribe in Virginia for over-the-counter medications and then bill it to your insurance so that you hopefully can save money. So right now I'm doing like allergy medications, and I'm tracking profit loss, percentage profit, if they become a new patient because of that interaction with me. So tracking all of that data, and then I'll report on that at the end of my residency, which residency is always July 1 through June 30. So you have a year to get all these things done. I also am adjunct faculty at the College of Pharmacy. So I've given lectures, I've done lab exercises, which we've been virtual the whole year. So it's been an interesting way to learn how to be a teacher, doing all of it on the internet, but I'll get a teaching certificate for having completed that program. And with a couple years more of experience, I can apply it to professorships in colleges of pharmacy. I also work at a federally qualified healthcare center in ambulatory care. So an ambulatory care pharmacist deals with disease states like diabetes, high blood pressure. We have HIV/AIDS patients, hepatitis patients. We do smoking cessation, Medicare annual wellness visits. And being a federally qualified healthcare center means that all of our patients are low income or on disability or Social Security. A lot of our patients are homeless or housing insecure. The clinic site that I'm at now is a lot of undocumented Hispanic immigrants. So these are people who, without places like where I work, would have no access to healthcare. And that is something that has been really important to me and something that I really love. And I would love to find a job doing something like what I'm doing now, where I get to still be in the pharmacy and have my patients and interact with people and get to know them and their families. And then also have my setting where I'm a prescriber and I see patients and I write prescriptions and I, um, change up their regimens and I get to help people in that way. But my immediate plans are to stay with Publix. They're headquartered in Florida, so I'm moving to Florida. This will be my like fourth move in 5 years. I don't mind moving for the right thing. And then hopefully get into a clinical role with them soon, and have like a corporate job. We'll see if I like that. I think I might miss the craziness of being in the pharmacy, but we'll see. So I have a lot of options that I never thought I would have. Um, and all of those options honestly come from me being stubborn and just not giving up. And if you can find even one person that really believes in you, and pushes you to be your best self, um, it can change your whole life. It did for me. So um, now I'm emotional. Gosh. Um, but yeah, that's what I did and where I came from. And um, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm finishing up a residency. The first day that I answered the phone and got to say, "This is the pharmacist," I like almost peed in my pants. I was so happy. I have a piece of the label from the very first prescription that I ever checked as the pharmacist that says dispensed by Megan Lawson. My first like pharmacist name tag was a big deal. Like it was a very long journey. And so to finally be here has been sometimes a little overwhelming, but if there's something that you really want to do, pursue it. Don't let so many people told me no. So many people told me don't go to pharmacy school. Pharmacists aren't getting paid as well as they used to. And the job's getting harder. And I was like, but I love it. So that's what I'm going to do. People told me don't do it all the time, and I did it anyway. So if there's something that you're really passionate about, just don't let anybody else's opinions sway you from doing what you are most passionate about. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in the many years that it took me to get to where I am today, is that people are going to tell you no. Just don't listen to them. That's my advice. Just stay the course. So I will take questions if anybody has any questions. I can just keep talking.
That really was inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
Very impressive. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When you do a residency, is that paid? And is it paid at the normal rate that a pharmacist would be paid?
So it is paid, but it is not at the normal rate. The average tends to be around $45,000 for the year. So it's sort of like still being in school. So we still do things like review articles and journal club and presentations. We have requirements to, like, I'm on a state association committee. We have to go to national meetings. You're still learning, but a residency gives you more specialized learning. So on the community kind of side, the business plan and the research project and working with patients in the pharmacy is you're still learning. And then on the clinic side, they're preparing us to get board certified as ambulatory care pharmacists, which is a PGY1 and a PGY2, specifically in AIM care, or you can do a PGY1 and then work for another year in an ambulatory care setting, which a community pharmacy is, and then you can sit for your board exam and become board certified. So that's what I'm kind of looking towards, because professorships, you have to be board certified. It's kind of like for an MD, getting board certified is the next level. It's the same thing for a pharmacist.
So you'll take a big exam to get board certified in that?
Yep, it's a big, expensive exam. pharmacy school and getting licensed as a pharmacist is expensive. My license for Florida has cost me almost $1,000, and I had to pay for that because I'm kind of choosing to go there. Publix asked if I wanted to go back to Charlotte. They asked if I wanted to stay here, and I was like, I really want to be in clinical, and that's in Florida, so let's do that. But my salary, I don't mind sharing my salary. It's right at $48,000 a year for this year. And then we can pick up shifts at our individual pharmacies and we get paid at pharmacist rate. Pharmacist salaries have gone down because there are an excess of pharmacists. My hourly rate is $57.75. I have a friend who wanted to stay in Nashville and CVS offered her $40 an hour, which is kind of insulting, honestly. But if you're looking in a big city where people want to live and they have their pick of people, and you have a bunch of people who are in debt on school, they're not going to make you a great offer. So there are great jobs in pharmacy in so many areas. I did a rotation with Indian Health Services in Arizona. It was fantastic. And you can get part of your school paid back if you work for them. I did a Veterans Affairs rotation that was fantastic. I did a rotation with the Army. I know the Army had pharmacists. They have pharmacists. If you have a hospital on a base, you have a pharmacy, you have pharmacists. And you can either like join the Army and then they'll pay back your school, or you can be a civilian pharmacist with them. That was a fantastic rotation. It was in mental health. And so we saw patients with PTSD and things like that. And then the pharmacist there had gotten certified in acupuncture and was teaching their PAs who were on rotation about acupuncture as treatment for insomnia, PTSD. And so I got to go to acupuncture class and I had acupuncture needles all up in my ears. And it was really interesting. The Army does some really progressive things in pharmacy. So there's all kinds of opportunities out there. But like, I like to move. Not everyone can move or wants to move. And I think now before you take on the burden of debt of grad school, you have to think about those things because there may not be a job in Lancaster because there's only like 3 or 4 pharmacies there. So it's certainly something to think about. I knew I was going to pharmacy school no matter what. And then I would go where it took. I interviewed for residencies in everywhere from Florida to Salt Lake City. I just wanted the right job. I'd never been to Salt Lake City in my life. I was like, but the job sounded right for me. And so I applied and I interviewed and I ended up choosing Virginia Commonwealth, but I was willing to do whatever it took. And so I think any kind of big financial commitment, you have to think about, am I limited in where I can go? Because I went to school in Nashville. It was the best fit for me. I interviewed with some of the South Carolina schools and it just didn't feel like the right fit. And the debt burden is substantial. So.
Would you mind sharing approximately when you're finished with all of this, how much debt you're talking about?
Sure. So with loans not being in repayment right now, thank God, when you're in residency, you can defer your loan payments because residency is kind of considered an extension of school. But my tuition for pharmacy school was $35,000 a year. It took me longer because I had to take some time off. I had to borrow living expenses because I worked during school. I worked at Walgreens, but you can't work 40 hours a week and go to school and pass. It just, you'll kill yourself trying to. So I am in for about $350,000 at the end of this.
Oh, that is a lot.
It's a lot. But even if I stayed at the salary that I make at Publix now, when I work full time, I would bring home about $120,000 a year. So you do have a high amount of debt, but your salary helps you make those payments. And then it's also, we get a lot of financial advising, and there are people who graduate from pharmacy school, medical school, dental school, whatever, and run out and buy a house and buy a car and buy fancy purses and you know, you wait a long time to be making that kind of money. And so then it's like, I want to spend it. But that's not my plan. I want to try to work away at that debt, but also it eventually gets forgiven. So in 30 years, they'll forgive it. I just try not to think about it. Because it's my passion, it's what I love to do. And the debt is scary, but I can't imagine myself doing anything else at this point. So the salary balances out the debt. I'm hoping that maybe we can do something with interest rate. It's the interest rate that really is bad. If I had a reasonable interest rate, I could pay it off much faster, but we'll see. The current administration has made some statements about making student loans no interest or making it a flat interest rate. And that would be really helpful because when you're paying those loans, you're paying interest, you're not even making any progress. And being a resident during the year when loan payments have been suspended, if I was working and making $120,000, I could have turned a lot of that money into those principal payments. And so I hope that it's right now it's extended through September 30th, no payments. I'm hoping that continues because then I can start actually making progress on it.
Does anyone else have questions?
I don't have any questions, but I really enjoyed your lecture. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm not a big PowerPoint person or like planning what I'm going to say. So I just wanted to speak from the heart. I appreciate it. I was in y'all's shoes, it feels like a long time ago, but it was not that long ago. I was in science club. I sat in these lectures. So.
Thank you so much. You're an inspiration to all of us. And I'm a non-traditional student. So, you know, it gives me a lot of hope to hear you. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's hard, you know, it's a big decision to go back to school, period. But when, you know, I had bills, I had a car payment, I had cell phone, I had bills and I had to work, and persevering through that only makes you stronger. I think it's made me a better pharmacist because I went through a lot. So I know that other people are going through a lot. And I think it makes you a more compassionate person when you've had life experience. It's only been helpful to me. And like I said, USCL would absolutely set me to where I am. I don't know what I'd be doing right now. The small class sizes, being like knowing your teachers. When I was at the University of Alabama, none of my teachers knew me. They didn't care who I was. They let me change major. I changed majors multiple times. Nobody said, hey, you can do it. Like, yeah, you failed this class, but you can do it. Like, I believe in you. And I got that at USCL. I didn't ever get that anywhere else. And so I think you guys have made the right first step by being where you're at. I really, really do.
Thank you. That's a great advertisement for USCL. Can we borrow you for our ads?
Sure. I love to talk. Put me in a commercial.
You do a great job. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. It's so nice to see you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Lawson? And thank you again. I think your talk from your personal story makes a bigger impact than PowerPoint. It's really, really, really moving, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Johnson and Ms. Kelsey are very proud. We didn't have overlap, but I'm pretty sure your teachers will be very proud of you, and USL is very proud of you.
Thank you. That means a lot. They did a lot
and
for me.
You're about to embark on a new venture to be a full-time pharmacist, and hope you the best.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope you can talk to us in the next few years and how your experiences and any changes, any news.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. If we have no more questions, let's give your, and I'll give Dr. Lawson a virtual clap. And thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And thank you all for coming. And I'll be posting the video on USL Lancaster ChemCobb website if you're interested. And thank you all. Have a good weekend and a final week. And thank you, Dr. Lawson, and good luck everything in the future.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye. Thank you.